episode 20. Nice little pretty number for us. We got some new guys on the podcast with us, Fantasy Football BS. But before we get into that, guys, let's get a fuckus on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Slumpbuster. Quiet on the set. Make sure my mic is on. Aris, Dre, and Juju, dog, diving towards the pylon. Go for 2, so damn rude. Recognize authority. Spitting tips for fantasy, no way you're outscoring me. Bold predictions with conviction every single day. Sports addiction, no restriction. Kicking game like Pele. He's the greatest, what's the basis? Pick an athlete, let's debate this game. Outrageous trading places. Sudden death, take 10 paces. Turn and shoot, boys the truth. Mamba mentality. Future greats take their place. Dreams become reality. Low and outside, knocked it out the park. Your boy discovered fire like a rock with a spark. Refs acting like Neanderthals. Phantom flags, nothing calls. Heartbreak losses, tragic falls. Every week discuss it all. Settle in, listen up. Free your time like Andrew Luck. Show's about to start. I suggest you buckle up.
Fuckus.
All right. So people don't know, Fuckus was like a little thing that the receivers group that I was in high school. That's what we broke on. Excuse our French here. I know we're an all ages show, but it was fucking focus. So we just threw it all together and it was Fuckus. And our head coach didn't like it very much, but our receivers coach did love it. So we got to keep it. But so we got Fantasy Football BS. They're going to help me break down the wide receivers for this upcoming season. Brand new podcast. So tell us about yourself, guys.
Grew up together, played ball together. I'm Snowman, one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football BS, coach D2 college football out in Ohio, and just big Broncos fan. And although my co-host is a Raiders fan, we're still putting this shit together.
And that's why it makes it so symbiotic. We're able to feed off of each other. And obviously we aren't going to be the type of podcast that's going to agree with one another always, because we've obviously got different tastes in what we're thinking. But yeah, like you said, we've been talking about doing a podcast for a long time. We've been kind of working over the last, probably 5-6 months on this, getting episodes in, and we're going to be launching here in the middle of July. So keep an eye out for that. Follow our podcast so that way on Spotify, that way you guys know when it drops. So look for us on all major platforms at Fantasy Football BS, and you'll be able to find us.
So as everybody already knows that if you're listening to the show, my teams... So you can't say that I'm biased because I brought on a Broncos fan and a Raiders fan, and I'm a Chargers fan.
Man. It's going to be fun.
We just need one more person who's a Chiefs fan. I know a couple of those.
The Chiefs.
So this is probably going to be a AFC West heavy show, and their rankings are obviously crap because their teams are crap. So...
Now, before we started the show, when you said you had Keenan Allen at 15, I was like, whoa, that's way high. Now I understand why.
Well, way high, but the man's consistent. I mean, he's still the number one receiver, so kind of got into it a little bit. So we'll see where you guys have your people at there. Those terrible, terrible teams.
I'm all about realism. I know how bad the Raiders are.
How are you looking? Are you looking forward to the Vegas aspect of your team?
I love it, man. So I'm from the Bay Area. We're actually both from San Jose, California, and
San Diego
up in the Bay. So yeah. So for me, I grew up going to Raiders games at the Coliseum, and I couldn't be more happy for the team. I know the fan base is pretty upset, and now it's not as hard for me because I'm out in Texas, so I don't get to go to games every weekend like I did when I was out there. So it's not as hard for me. I imagine being a fan out there and being a season ticket holder probably sucks. But honestly, the team needed a new stadium. That stadium was horrible.
It's garbage.
It was awful. I mean, they would cancel baseball games in that stadium for the A's because literally the sewage would be pouring up onto the field. That's how nasty it was. So, I mean, they deserve a new stadium. I'm happy for them, and I think Vegas is a great move.
Are you worried a little bit about the fact that you guys might not have home field advantage, or it might be a lot more corporations giving away tickets, other teams coming in because they're in Vegas this week? Yeah. Oh my God.
It'll definitely be a tourism team, but Raider Nation travels everywhere.
Yeah,
you can go anywhere and Raider Nation is there. So I imagine just like the Vegas Knights, the fan base is going to build out there. Mm-hmm. I think they'll definitely build a new type of fan base that's a little bit different from the black hole in Oakland.
The black hole.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit different, but it'll be interesting. I'm interested to see how it goes.
All right. And Snow, how did you become a Broncos fan if you're from California?
He was dropped off a shelf as a baby.
I hit my head somewhere along the line.
He ate paint chips as a baby.
Actually, we grew up with someone that actually was just a huge Broncos fan, and I played baseball with them and just kind of grew on top of that. My mom was a Niners fan. My dad was a Cowboys fan. They both wanted me to pull. I said, screw both of you guys, and liked the colors and just kind of jumped on Broncos train when I was like 5 years old and just kind of rode it ever since.
Okay, yeah, so that's like kind of like my story. I was raised a Cowboys fan because my dad was a Cowboys fan, and then in like 5th, 6th grade, I started to realize, hey, San Diego has its own football team. I'm just going to go over there because I'm from San Diego. So that's how I got there, and we still have the best uniforms in the league, even with the new redesigns. So
it's not as bad as the Rams.
Oh, yeah. I don't know how you didn't go for the Chargers when you were talking about you just fell in love with the color scheme, because the Chargers jerseys definitely a lot better than the Broncos, and definitely better than those like candy wrapper colors that they had, like the brown ones a couple years ago.
Those are, I'll give you that one. Those are pretty bad. And shit, my high school was the Chargers jerseys, essentially.
Yeah.
We were the Leland Chargers, and we literally had the same jerseys as the Chargers do.
Yeah.
Probably terrible for you being a Broncos fan then.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't have any. I mean, it was terrible. Everyone's hanging their bolts from their helmets up in their bedroom, having their helmets. It's like, I can't have that in my household. Like,
Well, you guys, we've kind of been going back and forth talking about this. So finally happened. You guys are on the pod. I'm happy for you guys. I'm happy to kind of grow along with you guys, collaborate some more, maybe in-season stuff, have you guys back on or go on your guys' pod, just kind of rehash where we're at during the season, if we have a season.
I know,
yeah,
crazy.
Yeah, I know. That's the crazy thing. That's what we've been talking about. Like, we've been prepping for this over the last 6 months, getting ready to launch, and it's like, man, we might not even have a season to launch for.
Yeah, so it's
pretty wild times.
Not a good time to start a podcast, but
yeah, pretty wild.
At least you'll have some good run, not knowing what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right until next season, so you guys can tweak stuff a little bit more. So you'll have a lot of practice if we don't actually have a season.
There we go.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Enough with the small talk. We will hop into the rankings because that's what you guys are here for. So we'll start off. My number one overall wide receiver, I'm still going to go with Mike Thomas out of New Orleans. He's a beast. I don't know what other way to put it. He gets Drew Brees back, throwing the ball. Hopefully Drew Brees stays healthy throughout the whole year, but even with Teddy Bridgewater last year, still caught a NFL record in passes. So PPR-wise, still a beast. Standard leagues, still a beast. So Mike Thomas, number one overall.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be the consensus number one across the board. Mike Thomas, 1,725 yards, 149 catches last season. I mean, the guy just had a ridiculous season. Clear number one over there, obviously. And I think Emmanuel Sanders coming over is actually going to free him up a little bit more because Sanders is underrated. And I think that he can take a lot of that pressure off of Mike Thomas to kind of give him a little bit more deep threat opportunities and a little bit more opportunity underneath, even because Sanders can burn him too. So I think, Mike Thomas, obviously number one.
And in PPR leagues, Mike Thomas scored over 30 points quite a few times. So 4 times throughout the season. So he's just a monster.
Yeah, I had him in my work league and I was super happy with him. The rest of my team, I battled through injuries, but him, perfectly happy with. Number 2 overall, I have Devontae Adams. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to go scorched earth this year, and he really doesn't have anybody else to throw to except for the 17 receivers that they have that you can't pronounce their names because they're a thesaurus out there running around. So I have Devontae Adams, number one option. Aaron Rodgers is still a hell of a quarterback, even though he's getting up there in age. So opportunities there. I like the spot, number 2.
Yeah, our number 2, it goes back and forth. Our number 2 is just going to be Mr. Consistent, Julio Jones. Just always consistent. He's been consistent throughout his career. He's averaging 161.7 targets over the last 6 seasons. So for your PPR guys, that is volume. Still is scoring over 25 points 5 times last year. So he's just a stud and just Mr. Consistent throughout the board. So I don't think you can go wrong with picking Julio Jones at number 2.
Yeah, so 3 is where I have Julio. I think that losing Cooper is going to free up a couple more looks for him and Ridley, but I think still he's the number 1 out there. Matt Ryan does this kind of up and down throughout the years. I think he's going to be having an up year. It seems like every other year, as Austin from the Fantasy Geniuses pointed out, he has a good year every other year, and he had a terrible year last year, so he's on track to have a good year this year. So that's why I had Julio at 3.
Nice. Yeah, number 3, we got DeAndre Hopkins. Now, this is one of those ones where I've got him at number 3, but I also put a asterisk for a buyer beware, because going over to the Cardinals, you don't know with a new quarterback in Kyler Murray what type of relationship they're going to be able to build, especially with all this virtual stuff, right? Like, we don't know what kind of rapport they're going to build up until the season starts, and I think that that's one of those ones where the talent is there. I think he's a clear number 3, but I also say buyer beware, because you don't really know what they're going to be working with. Plus, they still got a lot of targets out there. Don't underestimate Fitz and Kirk out there. They've got their own share of volume out there too.
Yeah, I can't really dispute with that, but at my 4, I have Chris Godwin. I think he's going to continue to build on, the really good year he had last year. And now he has the best quarterback to ever play the game throwing to him. He's not going to throw 30 interceptions this year. So the timing, precision routes, I think it's going to benefit him that much more. He's explosive. Kind of had a battle between him and Mike Evans, but I went with Chris Godwin just because I feel like the youth is going to show on this for that team. So Chris Godwin at 4.
Yeah, we got Tyreek Hill, and that just shows our unbiased as AFC West people
Haters.
over here.
Yeah,
Tyreek Hill, obviously Mahomes is all world over there. Mahomes is clear number 1. Kelsey helps open up. Andy Reid has seemed to be able to specialize and be able to put Hill in a great system to create plays for Hill specifically. And we saw Niner fans, unfortunately, it sucks for you guys, but saw Tyreek Hill in that Super Bowl with that huge down the field catch right there. And he's just a stud. And I hate to admit it, but he only had 89 targets last year, but only played 11 games. I think those targets will be in the hundreds this year.
Yeah, and don't underestimate the draft pick in Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's going to be huge. I think that's going to relieve a lot of pressure off those wide receiver weapons and tight end. So I see them being a very complete team and probably making a push for another Super Bowl here.
I hate that.
I know it's hard to say. It's hard to say. In this type of environment, you got to be realistic. You got to put your favoritism to the side. And I mean, the Chiefs, they're just stacked, and I think they're the most complete team in the NFL.
Legion of Zoom. All 4 starting receivers have a 4.4 or faster 40 time.
It's an Olympic track team. I mean,
it's Al Davis's dream. He's looking down from heaven.
That's exactly what you guys tried to do, but
he's like,
never
what
actually
the hell? I die and they let the Chiefs do my plan.
So at 5, this is where I put D-Hop. It does worry me with new players and new systems, especially this offseason. But if he could have a good year with Bryant Hoyer, if he could have a decent-ish year with Brock Osweiler, I think Kyler Murray is better than all of them. Cliff Kingsbury does throw that air raid offense, and the man didn't have a single drop of catchable balls. So this is where I put him. From my top 6, I feel like any of these guys can be anywhere. They're all interchangeable, but I just have a feeling he's going to be right there at that 5 spot.
Yeah, at our 5 spot, this is where we have Devontae Adams, and the reason why we have him at 5 is the Packers completely shit the bed in the draft. I mean, they did nothing to help Aaron Rodgers or Devontae Adams in that draft. I mean, their best 2 positions are quarterback and, running back and wide receiver, but they needed another wide receiver, and they go and draft a quarterback and a running back their first 2 picks. Completely awful draft for them. They did nothing to help out the team. I think Devontae Adams is going to struggle this season. I think that having an off season last year because of injury, I don't know how much that's going to play on him. Plus, Rodgers seems like he's 1 foot out the door right now. So I don't know how that's going to affect the team as well. Really, really interesting dynamic going out there in Green Bay with a changing of the tides. And I'd be a little, skittish drafting anybody from the Packers this year.
I think they even traded up to get Jordan Love when it was a super heavy wide receiver draft.
They did nothing.
At the time, there was still Rager was still on the board. Pittman Jr. was still on the board. T. Higgins was still on the board. All really good compliments to Devontae Adams. So, yeah, I don't know what the hell they were doing. But
I don't know what they were thinking.
Crazy.
I was scratching my head. I was like, man, what are the Packers doing? And Aaron Rodgers is just heated right now. He's livid.
Oh, super heated, but he's also the professional where he's not going to say anything about it. So,
yeah.
Does he finish in Green Bay?
I don't think so. I think that this is his final season.
I said either this season or next season would be his last.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to get out there.
We'll go ahead and go to number 6. Like I said, this is probably where I put all these guys in the same tier. This is where I have Tyreek Hill. I'm just worried about the plethora of weapons. I mean, he's still game breaker speed, still the number 1 or 1A, 1B, however you want to put it, with Kelsey. So 6 Tyreek Hill. And I hate seeing this man run down the field and return punts on us. It's annoying as hell.
Yeah.
Number 6, Number 6, we ended up going with Chris Godwin. He got another quarterback that is just going to be able to throw the ball around. And I agree, youth is going to be the friend in this one. We kind of toss back and forth with who do you go with, Evans or Godwin as the number 1 out there. Tom Brady seems to be able to get those shifty guys the ball a little bit more than the deep, just straightaway guy that can jump and get the ball. So I think Godwin is going to be the number 1 in Tampa Bay, and that's who we had at 6.
Yeah, so it looks like what I was kind of saying. We both have the same top 6. We kind of just have them swapped around a little bit. And I feel like most people's top 6 instead of a top 5 is going to be that way, where you'll see somewhere Tyreek Hill's 1.
Kind of like, what type of flavor do you like?
Exactly.
And it's like, for us, a thing that we really harp on for wide receivers is volume. Chase the volume, especially in PPR leagues. That's what we are really big proponents of. So when you look at target share, that's kind of how we go in our ranking, because if they're just right there neck and neck with each other, we always give the advantage to the targets.
Yeah, it's a pretty good philosophy to live by. We had Roto Bros on a couple episodes ago on the main show, and he was saying opportunity is his biggest factor when doing his ranking. So kind of what you guys 100%. Were saying there.
Yeah,
100%. So we'll keep chugging along. Number 7, I have Kenny Golladay from Detroit. Bit of a weird pick, but Stafford is coming back healthy. He was on pace to throw for 5,000 yards last year.
Insane.
He's the number 1 out there in Detroit. They're going to throw the ball because they haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Barry Sanders, which is a wild stat. So Kenny Golladay is going to kind of bounce back from last year because he's going to have his quarterback.
Our number 7 is going to be Amari Cooper. I think, Amari and Dak have built a pretty good relationship over the last season and a half since being traded from the Raiders. He does, as we all know, have a case of drop-itis. That's one of those ones where, for me, I had Cooper on my team last year, and 1 week you love yourself, next week you hate yourself because he's so inconsistent.
The week he played the Patriots.
Yeah, he puts up tons of yards by the end of the season, but it's always huge yards in one game, nothing in the next. So that's one of those other picks where I say buyer beware, because he is one of those guys that you're going to be sitting there some weekends, you're really banging your head against the wall because he's got you 2 points, and that's pretty much it. So we do have him at 7. Tons of opportunity, lots of targets. Lots of receptions, had 1,189 yards last year. Obviously, a good season. So, yeah, that's where we got him at 7.
The drops and everything. I had him his last year in Oakland, and I wanted to kill myself.
Yeah.
Super inconsistent. I was like, come on. It's just having players on either Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, or Cowboys, that always just pains me to have them on my team. But
it hurts a little bit, right?
Sometimes you just have to draft them.
I hate Travis Kelce, but he's the best tight end in the league, and you gotta be able to admit that.
Every time I draft him, I'm like, God damn it, I hate myself.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I feel dirty.
So at number 8, I have Juju, kind of like Kenny Golladay. He's getting his quarterback back. Big Ben. Hopefully, we haven't really seen quarterbacks ever. I think only one other quarterback has had Tommy John surgery. So we're not too sure how to go about this ranking, I guess. But pitchers can come back and throw pretty much the damn same. So if Big Ben can make it through the whole season, I feel like Juju is going to be a beast. This is my, as you like to say, my buyer beware, because if he goes down, last year he had, caved in head Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges throwing to him. So he had a terrible year. So if Big Ben is there, you're golden. If he's not,
trade him.
Yeah, if you can.
Yeah.
Our number 8, we're going back to Tampa Bay here with Mike Evans. Again, he doesn't have a great catch percentage over the course of his career. He's sticking around, average around 55 to 56% for his catch percentage. So he does have some drops. He had some 5 drops, but I mean, he is again heavily targeted, averages around 139 targets per season. And again, just a big score could frustrate you, but if him and Tom Brady can click, he's going to be someone that, like he did last year, he scored 30 points 3 times last year in a PPR league. So he could do some damage if him and Tom Brady can click.
Yeah, and I think Evans has the opportunity of being that Randy Moss role in New England. He's kind of that straight line guy, go jump ball. He has that opportunity here with Tom Brady. Can Brady still chuck it down the field like he did back then? I don't know. We'll see. Guy is 74 now?
He's 85.
So I don't know. It's kind of like at the end of Peyton's career where, he didn't really have it in him to continuously week in and week out chuck it down the field. So I don't know if he's still got it in him, but I think Mike Evans does have that opportunity.
All right. So at 9, this is where I put Cooper Kupp, and I put him up here. I think I'm a little higher than most people, but the Rams just lost Gurley. They don't have a true receiving back anymore, so more opportunity for him. Brandon Cooks has gotten more opportunity for him. He's just going to gobble up all of those catches, all of those passes from Goff, because he's Goff's guy. They came in together. He's by far his favorite target. PPR-wise, you can't really complain about him if you have. And sometimes he'll put up 200 yards.
No, 100%. We got Cooper Kupp at number 9 as well.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah. We got Cooper Kupp at number 9 as well. So, exactly what you said. Brandon Cooks is gone. Him and Goff got that rapport. Gurley's gone. He's going to be leaned on heavily this season. So, 100% Cooper Kupp at number 9.
Good hands.
Yeah.
Great hands. And that first half of the season last year, he was just lighting it on fire, man. They kind of fell off there at the end, but still, he was targeted 134 times, had 1,161 yards at the end of last season. Can't be mad at that.
10 touchdowns. So, yeah.
That London game was phenomenal if you had him. Terrible if you didn't have him or playing against him.
Yeah.
At 10 to round out the top 10, I have Odell Beckham here. I like Stefanski. He had Thielen and Diggs. Now he gets Odell and Jarvis. So lateral movement for the coach, pretty much plug and play in my mind, for those guys. I feel like Baker can go back to his rookie season where he had 27 touchdowns that set the rookie record. O-line is better. The only problem that I can see here is now Hooper's there to kind of take away looks and everything, but I still think Odell can bounce back and become that wide receiver 1 that we'd know him to be from the Giants.
And number 10 to round out our top 10 is where we had Kenny Golladay. Again, just amount of targets. Obviously, Stafford coming back. He led the league with 11 touchdowns last year, so he can do it again. Marvin Jones. A lot of people said that with Marvin Jones taking some stuff away, but Marvin Jones only missed 3 games, and Stafford missing everything, still was able to pull in 116 targets and 11 touchdowns. It's hard to dismiss those numbers when you don't have Stafford for part of it.
Yeah, and if you have a quarterback who can actually throw the ball, David Blau or David Bow or whatever his name was in Pittsburgh, you had, the rotation of Rudolph and Duck Hodges. So those backups really kill your year, especially when Matt Schaub came in for those couple games for Matt Schaub was still playing, which is fucking weird. Whenever he came in for Matt Ryan, numbers went down. So yeah, getting your quarterback is big plus for your guys. Number 11, this is where I have Adam Thielen. Diggs is gone. You have to build a new rapport with Justin Jefferson as a quarterback, so you're going to go back to your old reliable Adam Thielen. I mean, even with Diggs on the team, he still put up phenomenal numbers. Now he's going to be the main guy instead of sharing time, kind of 1A, and Diggs being 1B. So Thielen at my number 11, I felt pretty comfortable putting him here.
Nice. Yeah, number 11, we got Allen Robinson. And, I mean, this is just clear target volume city over here with 154 targets last season. I mean, he gets a ton of opportunity. He had 98 catches last year, 1,147 yards. Definitely a great pick in Allen Robinson.
All right, and then 12 to round out the wide receiver ones. This is where I have Amari Cooper, and the only reason why I have him a little bit lower on my list is I think CeeDee Lamb is going to eat into his target share. Blake Jarwin is going to eat into that target share. I think the opportunities go a little bit down. You still have Gallup, so I think the target share for him is going to go down just a little bit. That's why I dropped him down. I still think he's going to be a number one receiver, just wasn't too fond of the added weapons that Dallas brought in.
Yeah, and for our top 12 here, just to bring in Teddy. Obviously, he's going to have a nice friend out there in Carolina, and DJ Moore, a young guy, only had 3 drops last year, 2 years into the league. I just think him and Teddy are going to be able to click early on and just be able to put up the numbers. He was averaging 15.4 points a game last year in a PPR, so I think he can definitely match that with Teddy Bridgewater coming in and helping him out.
All right, so that'll wrap it up for our number one receivers. And a team's number one receiver is the quarterback's best friend. And we have your best friend in Manscaped. Julian, why don't you go ahead and tell him about it?
Hey guys, this is Juju Talk Sports, and I'm here to talk about Manscaped.com. Now, Manscaped is the number one men's grooming technology, the only brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. They have precision-engineered tools for the family jewels. The Perfect Package 3.0 comes with the new improved Lawnmower 3.0. It's waterproof, it's cordless, and it also comes with a ton of liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge blade to prevent manscaping accidents. Millions of balls around the world are now nick-free thanks to Manscaped's advanced skin care technology. And of course, let's not forget about the Crop Preserver, an anti-chafing ball deodorant to prevent moisture, kind of like keep everything all fresh down there. Subscribers get a new replacement blade refill for the Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, delivered to your door every 3 months, make sure your trimmer always stays fresh and clean. For a limited time offer, subscribers get not 1, but 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance anti-chafing boxer briefs. Get 20% off, plus free shipping with the code SLUMP at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SLUMP at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping and handling at manscaped.com, and use SLUMP. Manscaped is the best when it comes to men's grooming. Get yourself the Joe Burrow of trimmers, the Lawnmower 3.0. Enjoy the rest of the show.
All right, guys, like Julian told you, use promo code SLUMP to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. So we'll go ahead and keep on rolling. We'll jump into these wide receiver 2s now, and we'll kind of do what we did last week where we do those groups of 3, kind of speed it along now because we have a 5-hour podcast if we broke down 36 wide receivers just like that. So 13 through 15, 13 I have Mike Evans, big body guy, Tom Brady throwing to him, and you have Bruce Arians who likes throwing the ball. DJ Moore in Carolina, new coach, wasn't too sure how they would use him, but they still used him in the run game last year, so I feel like they can kind of use him like that Deebo Samuel role. Number one guy out there, target share, of course, is big. And then 15, like you guys said, was my biased pick, but one of the filthiest route runners in the league, target share monster. He had no less than 100 targets the last 3 years. He's been healthy. He's been killing it. Keenan Allen. I love you, Slayer.
And who was that throwing him the ball again?
I mean, it was old ass Philip Rivers with the 17 kids, and I mean, he's not.
Is he still out there? Is he still out there in LA?
No, he was never in LA. He was still in San Diego. He was driving that badass bus that he had. Did you guys see that bus? By the way, that thing was phenomenal that he was driving.
Yeah, it was pretty funny that he was just.
He needs it for all his kids.
Dude, I mean, yeah. Come on. I think now with him, his kids, and his wife, he can actually field a football team. Total. That's ridiculous. So that's my 13 through 15. I know you guys hate my 15, but I mean,
We just hate it a lot, not too much. 13 through 15. 13, we got Adam Thielen. Obviously only played 10 games last season, had the injury, and that held him out. But with Diggs going out to Buffalo, I think that opens up a lot of opportunity. Now he is going to have the Rook over there that's going to be able to open up the field for him too. Adam Thielen, I think, is going to have a bounce back season this year. Calvin Ridley at number 14. With Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, I think I expect a big season from him coming up this year. He was really coming on last year, and I think that with him and Julio and Matt Ryan having that bounce back year every other year like you're talking about, I think that's going to be a big season and a big opportunity for Calvin Ridley. And then 15, I got Juju Smith-Schuster, because we had him a little bit lower, I know, than you did, only because of what happened with Big Ben. You don't know what he's got left in the tank, how he's going to bounce back from the injury. So that's, one of those ones where I look at and I say, okay, I'm going to, be a little cautious. Plus I had him on my team last year, so I'm still a little bit salty for how bad of a season he ended up having. I ended up getting rid of him halfway through the year, luckily, but still, yeah, so that's our 13, 14, and 15.
All right, so 16 through 18. 16 was kind of my darling last year. I was real high on him after the first week. He was my waiver wire target for the first couple weeks because people still weren't picking him up. I know you guys are probably going to think I'm a little weird for this one, but DJ Chark out in Jacksonville. Minshew, it's his favorite guy. Minshew is the guy now in Jacksonville until they pick up Trevor Lawrence the following year. But he was the fourth best receiver in fantasy before they started playing the quarterback game, before he was dealing with a hamstring injury. So I can see that happening again this year, where he's kind of a sleeper because people aren't going to they're like, Jacksonville, they're not going to do much. So that guy, 17, Tyler Lockett. Russell Wilson is still there, even though apparently they tried to trade him to the Browns like 2-3 years ago. Still the number one guy out there. I think DK Metcalf's going to take a little bit of his work, but not much. And then 18, this is my sleeper pick, AJ Green. Hopefully he comes in healthy. This is
whoa.
Exactly. I mean, he's still one of the best receivers in the league. It's just last year he had turf toe quotes maybe, or he just didn't want to play.
He had I need a new contractitis.
Exactly. So I think he's going to come back. He's going to play on that franchise tag. He actually has a quarterback that he likes, and he wasn't too fond of whatever the hell they were trying to do last year. Win or not win, I'm not too sure. So AJ Green at 18. It's a bit weird pick, but I like him there.
Not too high, but
Our 16, we got Robert Woods, just another guy who's just a sure-handed catch guy, only one drop last year. Obviously, with Cooper Kupp, he's going to steal some of his stuff, but still think Robert Woods is another one that's worth having as a wide receiver too if you miss out on Cooper Kupp if you're a Rams fan. Number 17, Odell Beckham Jr. over here. This is kind of my buyer beware type of guy. I'm just, ever since he kind of left the Giants, I don't know. I think some people may be a little hyped on that one-handed catch of his and still think he's just a great wide receiver. He had 11 drops last year, and it just we'll have to see what Baker Mayfield. It just didn't seem to click with him last year. So I'm interested to see if they're able to kind of click to be able to work, and if they're not, then
it seemed like Mayfield had better rapport with Landry.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't think he was looking at OBJ as the guy. Strange that it didn't seem like it worked out last year. But yeah, definitely that's one of those ones where I'd be very wary drafting him.
And number 18, this is gonna get a little heckle after this one, but Cortland Sutton out here.
Heckle here.
I mean, the thing that impressed me about him is 9 red zone receptions. 6 of those resulted in touchdowns. So he's definitely a clear, as batted hard as the Broncos have, and this is coming from a Broncos fan, of getting the ball in the damn end zone. He's still a target in the red zone to put up some points. I think now with obviously Noah Fant in his second year, Jerry Jeudy as well, and Hamler's at the slot, I think it's going to free up Cortland Sutton a little bit more and have obviously a good year with Drew Lock.
No, yeah, and two of those touchdowns were right in my face when I was in the corner of the end zone at the Chargers game up in Denver. So, yeah, I wanted to cry.
Let him eat.
And that was a bullshit pass interference call for you guys to win in overtime. Just saying. We'll go ahead and keep going. 19 through 21. No rebuttal from him. 19, this is where I had Allen Robinson. And the only reason why I said this is because I don't feel like he's going to be able to get a rapport with the quarterback because they are going to be playing QB carousel all year. I don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. That's why I have him so low. Maybe when we get closer to the season and they actually have a set plan at quarterback, I can move him up. It's just the quarterback situation worried me just a bit. 20, this is where I have Cortland Sutton. I mean, that's why I said no heckle for me because
there it is.
I have him right here. And then 21, Deebo Samuel. He's killed it last year. I feel like he's going to continue to develop into that number one guy. Hopefully they don't run the ball like they did against Green Bay and only throw the ball 8 times.
Yeah, so our 19 through 21, 19, we have A.J. Brown. Obviously, Tannehill coming back is going to be huge for him. I think now Tannehill kind of knowing that this is his team is going to bring him a little bit more confidence even than he had last season. Had a great season with A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown put up 1,051 yards, 8 touchdowns, came on hot at the end of the season. I think that it leads into this next year, and they continue to build on what they had going. Devontae Parker at number 20 with Miami. The guy was the last 6 weeks of the season just on fire, finished top 5 wide receivers. Like the guy literally just had a great end of the season, 1,202 yards, 9 touchdowns. He got 128 targets last year. I mean, he's seeing a lot of target share. And Tua's not getting in. He's not probably going to even play this year. So you got Fitzmagic coming back, and they've already got that relationship going, so they'll continue to build on that. 21, Marvin Jones, Stafford throwing for 5,000 yards a season. He's got to get those yards to somebody. So I think Marvin Jones picks up a big chunk of that, and he's going to have a bounce back season in 2020.
I didn't put him on this list strictly because I sat him the week he had 4 touchdowns. I feel like TJ Hawkinson's going to develop into that number 2 guy instead of him. That's just why I don't have him on here. And I'm still a little salty about that 4 touchdown game on my bench. So 22 through 24, I have A.J. Brown. Kind of like you, I do like that Tannehill's coming back. That play action deep pass down the field was killer for Tennessee last year. 23, Stephon Diggs. I wanted to put him higher on this list, but completion percentage for Josh Allen downfield, I believe on 30 or more yards, he was ranked 32 in the league. That's kind of Diggs' bread and butter. I still think they'll find a way to get him the ball, but that downfield completion percentage was a bit iffy for me. And then 24, Devontae Parker. I wanted to put him closer to wide receiver 1, but they're getting Preston Williams back. Gesicki started to come on the last couple weeks. If Fitzmagic is, the full starter for the year, I feel like he can be a little bit higher. But with Tua, say his name 10 times fast and you'll never get it right. Tagovailoa, this guy, I don't think these rookies are going to have much success quarterback-wise, especially with, no offseason. So 24 to round out my wide receiver 2s.
Going at 22, we had AJ Green. I mean, it's hard, again, coming off that injury. Probably if he would have put in a couple games last year, I think we would have probably had him a little bit higher. He's only played 9 games in the last 2 years. So he's definitely got to keep healthy now that he sat out all season, because I don't think it was that Achilles or whatever it was. He should be plenty healthy coming in for Joe Burrow, who's going to have a great number 1 wide receiver to throw to and a consistent guy. Number 23, DJ Chark, clear number 1. Just 0 drops. He only hit 20 fantasy points. He started off on fire, 21.1 fantasy points the first 5 weeks, averaging. So he started on fire. He is the clear number 1 wide receiver over there. And he was a wide receiver that was drafted in round 14 or later from most drafts last year. So that just kind of shows that you can pick good wide receivers late and you don't have to pick them so high. And to round out the 24, going to be Phillip Rivers, number 1 target, and T.Y. Hilton. I think T.Y. He's a good guy. He's always had high targets, 128 targets averaging. Also, we'll see what he can do coming off some injuries, but I think he'll be the number 1 target for Phillip Rivers out there.
Yeah, don't doubt that, and that's why I have him at 27. I like the offensive line in Indy. I like Philip Rivers in Indy. It's a perfect spot for him. I still love you, Philip Rivers. Please come back. Okay. 26. This is where I have Calvin Ridley. Can't really say more than you guys already said. A little inconsistent last year. The year before, though, he was for like 5-6 weeks. He was the best fantasy receiver you could possibly have. I think he'll continue to grow, especially having Julio next to him is going to open him up. And then 25, Robert Woods. Again, no Gurley, so target share is even higher for them. And they still don't really have a tight end that would scare me to take looks away from the number 2. So that's the start of my wide receiver 3s.
Yeah, so ours is 25 to 27. At number 25, we have Keenan Allen. This is also our other buyer beware and, draft with caution.
All right, and that's all we're going to say from them. We're going to end the podcast.
We actually graded this ahead of time before we knew that you were a Chargers fan. But honestly, with Tyrod Taylor, you don't know what he's going to be. And, it's going to be probably a lot of inconsistency. He's not going to have that same relationship that he had with Philip Rivers. So I think that this is one of those ones where, new quarterback, probably new scheme, they're not going to run the offense like they did with Philip Rivers. I think they're going to try to open it up a little bit more. Tyrod's a little bit more mobile. They might try to get a little gimmicky and a little cutesy. And I don't know. I think the Chargers are going to have a really bad year this year. So that's our number 25. 26, Tyler Lockett. Like you said, still got Russ out there. Lockett's going to have a lot of volume, great in PPR leagues. The guy is very consistent. Only had 2 drops last season. Definitely a great guy to have on your squad. And if that's your wide receiver 3, you'd be pretty happy. So.
And how could you not? Russ, he scrambles, looks like he's throwing the ball away, and all of a sudden Tyler Lockett scores a touchdown out of nowhere.
That was pretty wild.
The guy comes up with phenomenal catches out of nowhere. Gotta love the guy.
He's a great option, especially if you get him at a wide receiver 3. That's some good value there. And then number 27, this is one of our sleeper picks is Stephon Diggs. I think that Stephon Diggs is going to have a lot of opportunity. I think Josh Allen's got a cannon. That you can look at those statistics. Obviously it speaks for itself, but at the same time, I think that who's he been throwing that ball to? Is it the type of talent of a Stephon Diggs? I wouldn't say so. So I think it changes it around a little bit. I think they go a little bit more underneath with them too to kind of get him some targets there. Great in PPR. So that's going to round out our 25 to 27.
No, and I'm going to piggyback on your Tyler Lockett. He's one of the only guys that you'd be happy with the 3 catches that he has, because those 3 catches generally go for like 160 yards and a touchdown. Yeah. Otherwise, if you have the guy and you see 3 catches, you're going to be pissed off. But usually with Tyler Lockett, you're okay with those catches. So we are on to 28 through 30. 28, this is where I have Jarvis Landry, kind of like I did with Odell Beckham. Stefanski, this is mainly because of him. I feel like that offense, he's going to mirror a lot what he did in Minnesota. He has the same type of weapons, good tight end, some good running backs, and some really good receivers. This is just hopefully Baker can step up back to where he was his rookie year. 29, this is a weird place for me, but I felt like he's the only person on that team, Julian Edelman. I don't know how good Stidham is, because the only time we saw him, he got pulled because he threw a pick 6 against the Jets. And we never saw him again after that. But he's the only person on that team, so maybe he's going to catch a bunch of balls. And then 30, this is where I had Brandon Cooks, and this is my stay away guy because 1, the injury history is pretty bad. 2, who knows if Watson is even on the team next year and he doesn't get traded for, a half-eaten bag of Skittles. But it's just, I don't know what that offense is going to look like, because you have hurt Kenny Stills, hurt Will Fuller, always hurt Brandon Cooks, now almost always hurt David Johnson. So I just wasn't sure how this offense would look, but Deshaun Watson is a hell of a quarterback. So, I had to put him on here somewhere.
Going at 28, same thing, Jarvis Landry. with us as well. Just it's hard to dish on what he's able to do, and Baker Mayfield clearly likes Jarvis Landry, 138 targets last year. 29, we got Deebo Samuel. They got something going with that offense with him. Again, it seems like Shanahan has liked to design plays specifically for him every week. I don't know if Brandon Ayuk is going to be able to be a similar person for Shanahan. And obviously, the only thing that kind of scares me about Deebo Samuel is if you look at the second half in the last Super Bowl, if you go from a 2 safety eye look and you go to a 1 safety look and be able to drop that one of those safeties down to take away the edge, you're going to take out that end around run that Deebo Samuel and the Niners like with Deebo Samuel. So I think he's the clear number 1. But number 30, we got Julian Edelman. Again, I can't hate the guy. I'm out here in San Mateo, where Tom Brady came from, Sarah High School. Julian Edelman went to Hillsdale High School. That's within 10 miles of each other. So I don't know what type of relationship they had coming out of high school together, but they had something going. But I still think he's going to, volume-wise, if you look at the last Super Bowl, they kept feeding Julian Edelman, and they're going to feed him this year. There's no one else really there around for the Patriots to kind of throw to. So we got Julian Edelman at number 30.
And do the Patriots come out surprisingly before the season starts and pick up Cam Newton maybe?
I don't see it happening.
I don't see it happening.
They have no cap space.
Doing, man?
They have no cap space. That's what's wrong.
They have no quarterback out there. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
they have Brian Hoyer playing for like $3 this year.
Yeah.
The Colts are paying him. So 31 through 33, 31, I have Darius Slayton. Towards the end of the year, he started coming along. I feel like he's going to develop to that number 1. New York doesn't really have that number 1 yet. They just have a bunch of guys kind of running around out there. Him, Shepard, and Golden Tate. But I think he will develop into that number 1.
Sounds like an injury clinic out there.
That team, I feel like they could have done so much better, but they just had a bunch of injuries for sure.
Yeah, Shepard's always injured. Tate's always injured. I mean, goodness gracious.
Justin Jefferson is my 32. I feel like he's slid into that Diggs role. He's not going to have as much he's not going to be as potent as Diggs because Diggs knew that offense like the back of his hand. He's going to be learning. He's going to have a little bit more of a learning curve. So I still think he's going to produce because he's in that Diggs role. And hopefully, Kirk Cousins can actually do something and not shit the bed like he always does in primetime games. And then 33, again, this is mainly just volume. They don't have anybody else to throw to. Jamison Crowder for the Jets. Robbie Anderson is now gone. So you have him and then Griffin, the tight end, and then a rookie receiver that they just drafted. So they have to throw the ball to somebody. Jamison Crowder is going to be that guy. And there was a couple games where he had 10-plus catches last year. So hopefully he can continue to build on that. And his quarterback doesn't get mono.
Yeah. Yeah, our 31 through 33, at number 31, we got Michael Gallup. Dak had a hell of a season last year, over 4,000 yards passing, was in a lot of MVP discussions. Whether or not they drafted CeeDee Lamb, I still think that Gallup and Cooper take the majority of the targets and yards out of what Dak's going to be producing. So Michael Gallup, he's been the clear number 2, and I think he's going to continue to build on that. And at some points last year, I feel like Dak looked to him more than he was looking to Cooper. A little bit more confidence in his ability to actually catch the ball. But, between Cooper and Gallup, they led the league in drops as a duo. So it was pretty bad out there with drops last season. But I still think Gallup's going to have a good season. So if you can get him here, probably, I'm guessing in the 8th round in most leagues, that'd be a solid pick. Number 32, we got Marquise Hollywood Brown. Look at what Lamar was able to do last year. I think they continue to build on that offense, and Brown's going to have a lot more opportunity out there to produce. And then number 33, we have Brandon Cooks. So you actually had him a little bit higher than us, but this is one of those ones where you called him a buyer beware. We call him a sleeper. You're probably going to be able to draft him in the 8th to 9th round in most leagues. And if you can get out of him what he can actually be as a number 1 wide receiver in the 8th or 9th round, you're going to be pretty happy with yourself. I think he's going to be the clear number 1 out there, and all of Hop's targets got to go to somebody. Now, yes, he does have the injury concerns and the concussions, so there is that. hopefully he can jump on the ground before he gets hit by anybody.
Yeah, he needs to go to a baseball sliding coach.
Yeah, he needs to start sliding like quarterbacks.
Exactly. He needs to do what T.Y. Hilton did early on in his career, where he'd either run out of bounds or slide or get down real quick. It's like T.Y. didn't really get hit in his first couple of years in the league because he was always just diving down and saving himself. So to round out the wide receiver threes at 34, this is just because I know what Philip Rivers likes. I have Michael Pittman Jr. I feel like he's going to lead the rookies in touchdowns just because Rivers likes those big body guys. He's going to be his red zone go-to guy. So I feel like he's going to get mainly goal line looks. He'll have a couple, 100-yard games here or there, but more than likely he's going to have 5 catches for, 50 to 70 yards and 1 to 2 touchdowns because of he's going to be such a red zone threat because they don't have another big body guy. Number 35, this is where I have Emmanuel Sanders. He's going to fill that Ted Ginn role a little bit better than Ted Ginn did. He's going to have Mike Thomas opposite him and Drew Brees throwing him the ball. And then 36, again, just a solely volume pick in Terry McLaurin out of Washington. Maybe they have Alex Smith come back, who knows? Or maybe they actually pick up Cam like the rumors suggest Ron Rivera might do once the season starts. And if he does pick up Cam, I feel like Terry McLaurin's going to shoot up draft boards.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
If that comes to fruition. So that's going to end my wide receiver 3 and my receiver rankings for today.
Ending off here, it's kind of similar to yours as well. At 34, we got DK Metcalf, another rookie who had a fine year last year, 7 touchdowns out of a rookie. Did have quite a few drops, so he definitely needs to get the drop-itis out of his system. He had 8 drops last year, but just can't argue with what he did. Tied for 3rd in receiving touchdowns for rookies for A.J. Brown and Darius Slayton. So 7 TDs. He's definitely that clear red zone target for Russell Wilson. And I think he's just going to kind of build on his route running and become a better wide receiver for Russ out there in Seattle. Number 35, Jamison Crowder. Again, he's just going to be with a rookie. I know Brashad Perriman's coming in from Tampa Bay, but again, Brashad had Mike Evans and Godwin around him, and so as everyone's kind of looking to those two, Brashad kind of came out and showed that he could do something, but now he's going to be able to face a number 1 or number 2 corner. I don't know if he's going to be able to do what he did out in Tampa Bay. So I still think Jamison Crowder is going to be able to get the majority of the targets and the volume. And 36 to round us off, same thing that you said, Terry Scary McLaurin, definitely the targets, the volume, clear number 1. And again, I think, if they can get a Cam, I think that thing's going to jump and skyrocket his value. And if you can get him as a wide receiver number 3 with a guy like Cam Newton, I think that could be a nice steal.
Yeah, a lot of upside with Terry.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if they do go ahead and go with Cam. I've heard some more rumors coming out about that just because Ron Rivera was his coach in Carolina, and they had some pretty good success. But I will have to say these receiver rankings were definitely the hardest rankings I've done so far just because there's so many guys who could slide into almost any one of these positions. So
yeah, it's true because with running backs, you've got pretty much consensus number 1s for each team. And then you kind of look at their production from last year. So running backs are pretty easy. Quarterbacks are pretty easy. Wide receivers are definitely tough. There's a lot of, anomalies that go with where you're going to rank them, who their quarterback was last year. Do they got the same guy? Do they have the same offensive coordinator? Do they have the same coach? There's so many different dynamics that go into where you're going to rank them. You can't really just look at production. You got to look at everything going around it. Did they change scenery? And like I said, man, with all this virtual training and everything that the teams are so hands off right now, I think this season, more than any season we've ever probably seen in our lifetimes, it's going to be a lot of the teams that are going to be successful are going to be the teams that are the most athletic. I think a lot of the season this year is going to go based off of athleticism, and they're, at least for the first half of the season, until they kind of all get their gears going. But the season's going to be interesting.
as well as just being able to have that relationship. If you got that QB and that wide receiver that have that relationship in this virtual where they can't be doing anything anyways, that connection and that relationship between QB and wide receiver is going to be big. And if you want proof, I mean, Cortland Sutton, DJ Chark, DK, Gallup, AJ Brown, Debo, Terry, Devontae, Parker, all these wide receivers were picked in round 14 or later. So now they're all on our list besides John Brown here, but that just kind of shows you that wide receivers is a tough thing to rank because none of those wide receivers were on anyone's boards, and they ended up in the top 36 of our draft boards right now.
Yeah, and most teams, it seems like some receivers are mainly matchup based, whereas running backs kind of almost can guarantee their production because they're going to run the ball. But if you have Amari Cooper going up against Stephon Gilmore, that's a super hard, terrible matchup. But if you have Amari Cooper going up against, name the 17th DB that the Eagles trotted out there last year.
Or Chris Harris Jr. If you have, I mean,
yeah. So it's
a little salty.
He's gonna go nicely against with Casey Hayward on the other side. So hopefully he goes back to that 2015 form. But I feel like receivers more often than not are more matchup based outside of those top like 6-7 guys that are almost always going to eat no matter what. So before we get you guys out of here, it's a staple on our show. Who wants to go first for this question? You don't get to know what the question is, but it's not that hard, but it is going to put you on the spot.
Bring it on.
All right. Favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie?
Favorite sports movie.
Oh, Remember the Titans, hands down.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah, Remember the Titans for sure. Denzel, I mean, that movie gives me chills every time I watch it. Strong side! I love that movie.
If I'm going to go with football, it's also going to be Remember the Titans. But probably my all-time favorite is going to be Bull Durham, baseball. I'm a big baseball guy as well. It just kind of shows you the dynamic of the minor league system, and it's just, I love it.
I'm not sure if Bull Durham has ever been said on the podcast yet, but
it's because no one's ever come on your podcast drunk.
But, I've been drinking 8%ers the whole episode. What do you want me to do? A good Cali beer.
But Remember the Titans, I believe you're like the 6th or 7th person to say Remember the Titans. So I think consensus that's going to be the best one.
An unknown little one and something for a lot of people to watch, and it's a movie I watched before every single game I ever played in high school, is The Program. If you've never seen the football movie, The Program, I highly suggest it. Great movie.
All righty. So before we head out, let us know, where can we find you, socials, where can we listen to you? Go ahead and do that shameless plug here now.
Yeah, easiest way to find us is going to be on Instagram at Fantasy Football BS. That's at Fantasy Football BS. All of our links are in our bio there for YouTube, Twitter, Spotify. We're going to be dropping our podcast here in middle of July. Get you guys ready for the season. We're going to be dropping 3 episodes that first week. So make sure that you guys go in and turn on those notifications. So when we do drop those, you guys get that instant notification knowing that we're released, and you guys can take a listen. And before we get going, huge thank you to you bringing us on.
Yeah, thank you.
This is awesome. First collab we've done with anybody. So you popped our cherry, and this was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. It was something that we've been talking about for a long time, and Snow put in a ton of work. If you see these spreadsheets, man, I mean, they're intense. He puts in a lot of work on this stuff. We put in a lot of work on this stuff. So we appreciate you bringing us on, and all of us being able to drop some knowledge on everybody.
Well, we like the collabs here at Slumpbuster. We kind of developed into that. Our first several episodes, it was just us, but we feel like this collab format where we're bringing in other podcasts and just talking about either rankings or on the general show, just the news of the day. It's done wonders for ours. So we'd always love to have you guys back on, but next time I do need to find Chiefs fan. And now I know I need to wear my jersey next time.
Every time.
Because I will put you all to shame with my powder blue beauty. They don't have any larges right now on NFLshop.com. I have no idea when they will actually get some shirts in or some jerseys in, because I need that dark navy and a new powder blue jersey for this coming season. But loved having you guys on. Hopefully we can do this again, either in season or closer to the season. So we're going to go ahead and head out. If you are listening to this, you already know where to find us. Slumpbuster Podcast on Instagram, Slumpbuster Pod and Slumpbuster FFB on Twitter, the slumpbuster.com, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, wherever you listen to your podcast, we are at. So we will see you next week where we break down tight ends, defense, and kickers. So we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out, guys.
Peace out.